What is up guys, Andy Forrestine Runner here, and today we're going to be taking a look and comparing the New Balance 1080 version 10 to the Asics NOVABLAST. So back at the beginning of the year, you'll remember that I early retired a lot of my 2019 shoes to make way for a brand new lineup in 2020. And the goal was to get two new easier day shoes, two speedier shoes and a new racing shoe. And that is where we ended up with the New Balance 1080 version 10 and the Asics NOVABLAST. Both of these shoes doing incredibly well at the moment. Very, very enjoyable, but very, very different. And today I want to go through with you their differences, the pros and the cons, and which one I prefer. And of course, maybe give you guys some tips and hints as to which one you might want to lean towards if you're thinking about buying either of these shoes. So if you're so interested for today's video, guys, make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and without further ado, let's jump in. So in this technical section of the overview, what I want to do is not cover old ground and go through the full technical review of both these shoes, because of course that was covered in my first impressions on both of these shoe videos, which are already on the channel. If you've missed those, make sure you head back onto the channel and check those out. My goal for this video is to simply share my pros and cons between the technical side of both these shoes and which elements that I prefer from each shoe. We'll start off by saying, before we get into specifics, that both of these shoes retail within £2 of each other. The Asics NOVABLAST is $119.99 and the colourway that I chose on the New Balance 1080 version 10 was £121.99, so very close in price. They very much match there, both of which I was able to go true to size and very much similar weights, in and around the 340 to 350 gram mark in a UK size 13 in the NOVABLAST and a 13.5 in the 1080 version 10. I didn't know if I just said it, but both fit true to size. So let's start with the 1080 version 10. As I said, I'm not going to give you a full technical overview. What I will do quickly is just quickly whiz through the shoe and then tell you the element that I love on this shoe more so than the NOVABLAST. So this shoe is made up of what looks like to me a two-piece upper. You've got the heel counter area here, which is nice and firm and rigid with the heel flare. Then we have a one-piece lovely stretchy synthetic mesh upper, which wraps all the way around the shoe just with this New Balance logo overlay on there. Nice lacing system and a Fresh Foam X, I'll get it right this time, Fresh Foam X midsole with small bit or big bit of rubber outsole there and a small bit of rubber outsole here, and then a little bit in the middle of exposed Fresh Foam X. And the one element I prefer on this shoe compared to the NOVABLAST is I just get such a lovely snug fit in this shoe. That's made up of two reasons. Number one, the gusseted tongue, and number two, the nice stretchy upper material. Now, I've been having a couple of conversations with you guys in the comments, and it's become very apparent, especially Tim, if you're watching, it's become very apparent that I have a wider foot, and for those of you with narrower feet, when I'm describing a fit and the comfort for me, it's not necessarily obviously going to be the same for you guys. For me, I love this because this is the standard width in the New Balance shoe, width D, I think it is. And the gusseted tongue just wraps and hugs my midfoot, and the stretchy upper, my feet fit perfectly in this toe box, and the stretchy upper just molds around the top of my foot beautifully. And I've got to be honest with you, it's possibly one of the most secure and locked down shoes that I can get out of all the shoes that I've ever had. It just feels really, really good in that aspect. I just get no movement in and around the heel area. I just get everything locked down really nicely. And I think I've got to say that it pips the NOVABLAST there when it comes to just the snugness of the fit. But I'll be honest with you, that's the only thing that this shoe pips the NOVABLAST to. Let's move on to the NOVABLAST, and very quickly we'll whiz through this. Again, this looks to me, and I might be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but this looks like a one-piece upper which goes all the way around with a few overlays here, the Asics logo here, a sturdier heel counter at the back, and again the Asics logo on this side. This does look like a dual mesh layer, sorry I should say, because you can see there are some ventilation holes here and there's another layer underneath. It is slightly stretchy, it's not as stretchy as the 1080 version 10. And then of course we have the Flight Foam Blast midsole material with the AHA outsole rubber on the bottom with a little bit of exposed fresh foam blast showing through. The superlatives I have for this shoe is incredible, and I'm not going to bore you with all of them, but I think what I have to give the 1080 V10 to is, as I said, the snug fit. That's not to say this doesn't give you a nice lockdown fit, because I do feel very locked down in this shoe, but I want to highlight a couple of things to you with this shoe. The comfort levels I find in this shoe are far in excess of anything I've experienced in a very, very long time. Once again, going back to the Asics shoe, you know with an Asics shoe you're going to get comfort. Shoes in the past haven't always or necessarily been the best, but in this aspect here, this is a slightly toned down padded heel collar area, because normally a lot of the Asics shoes I run in have a very highly thick padded tongue and heel counter area. This is what I would call a medium padding, and it is just spot on. So from that aspect, the comfort level there it's phenomenal. And the general overall ride of the shoe, thanks to the Flight Foam Blast. And I've got to say that there are a lot of great midsoles out there. I was only the other day giving the New Balance Fuel Cell TC massive kudos for the Fuel Cell midsole, which I absolutely love, the Fuel Cell midsole. But I've got to say, when it comes to taking a shoe out for an easy run, you want a soft cushion but very responsive and poppy ride, this thing bounces you down the road like no other shoe I have ever, and that is a big statement, ever experienced from an easy day shoe. Bearing in mind this thing does not have a carbon plate in it. Yes, it has that sort of meta rocker design where you stood on the edge of a curb and you go so far and you feel like you're going to fling off, but on the whole, this thing has just got the best sensation when you're running in it that I have experienced in a shoe in a very, very long time. And in that aspect, I have to give massive kudos to the NOVABLAST. So from a technical perspective, and I know that wasn't very technical, but from a technical perspective, despite the fact that this thing has, in my opinion, got a better lockdown feel in the midsole and across the foot itself, I've got to give my preference to the NOVABLAST. You probably gathered it in the videos that I've done already, but this shoe, at the moment, is shoe of 2020, and I'm highly surprised if anything can beat this. I know that's a big statement. I'm sure there will be some amazing shoes out there later this year, but from a daily trainer perspective, if we categorise it that way, this thing is absolutely incredible. I think the reason why I prefer this more so than the 1080 version 10, I just prefer the softer midsole, and normally with a softer midsole you tend to find that they might soften out a little bit, harden up a little bit quicker, and might not be quite as durable. Time will tell. Obviously I'll give you my thoughts after 100 miles on both of these shoes. I've got to give it credit to the 1080 version 10. This shoe is holding up really, really well so far. But this thing feels effortless, and I think when you want to go out for an easy day run and you want to switch off from the world, you want something that's effortless so that you don't have to worry or think about, oh, these shoes are heavy, oh, they're rubbing, oh, they're this or that. This thing glides you down the road smooth as butter. It is just unbelievable. And so from that perspective, as I said, I've got to go for the NOVABLAST. But of course, that's just my opinions. What are your opinions? Have you run in either the 1080 version 10 or have you run in the Asics NOVABLAST? Let me know in the comments below. As I said, I will be updating you guys when I get to 100 miles in both of these shoes, and I think I'm going to make a special exception for the NOVABLAST to give you an update. If I make it to 200 and beyond, I will do a video on it then like I did the Rincon, because I'm hoping that it doesn't flatten out like the Rincon did. I'm hoping this thing will go the distance for me. So that's it for today, guys. As I said, let me know in the comments below which shoe you prefer out of these two if you've run in them, and which shoe you are looking forward to coming out later in 2020. So if you enjoyed the video, guys, make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Until then.